we've talked about this multiple times, that, we're in a particular phase of this group of people, right? We're in the studying phase. And so that is the most important focus right now, is getting this group of folks through securities. And I'm very pleased to say that 2 of your fastest big round of applause. I'm going to have Bob and Doug come up and talk a little bit about what they learned during the test, from the test. So if you need to take notes, get out a notebook, you need paper and a board and a clipboard, let me know. Want a clipboard? I have clipboard. There we go. And then after they're done, I'll debrief a couple things based on what they talked about. And then we got a few more things going on. Let's go from there. Is that good? So let's welcome him. Get your butt up.
You go first. I'll try the rest of it.
You can have it all the time. Oh, how the apple is not. Not the nice, very juicy, delicious apple. So thank you guys for all your comments on Slack. And I'm sucking on it, so I apologize. Applause, appreciate it. Oh, I didn't mean it back. I wasn't hinting for more, really. I wasn't. So they wanted us to just kind of go over how we felt during the test and some of the thoughts you guys had. What was it like? What if anything we could do different? Not gonna work with No, I'm not having an episode getting I just spit it out.
Welcome to my life. Yeah, so let's just going over observation. What we expected. It was a little bit different than what we expected, but it wasn't so much different. Just take a breath and look at it. This is the same information given to you in a different way. Then you just have to review the question and take the information that you really valuable. All the information is all the same. Deciphering everything, it's just reviewing the material, no matter how they come at it.
Well, going into the last couple of weeks before studying, we were with you guys on Saturday morning, we had to miss, and really just reviewing all the information. We were kind of done with that. We had gone through all the steps already, and we were just going through, just taking test phase. We take a test, study it, review the test answers, the ones we got right, just kind of glance over the ones that we got wrong, and Cindy knows we kind of did that Saturday. The ones that we got wrong, dissect. Why did we get it wrong? What did we think they were asking? And if we chose C, what would A and B? What would those answer? And just kind of what is the question asking? What's the general concept? What's the theme of it? Is it tax regulations? Are they talking about an annuity? Are they talking about mutual funds, open or closed? And just kind of take a breath. And going in to the test with that confidence of knowing that you have that skill. So going into the test room, you know that you have 2 hours and 15 minutes to take the Series 6. You sit down and they give you dry erase boards like this size. And I took it and I wrote my cheat sheet over there. And the cheat sheet's going to be different for everybody, depending on what you feel you need. I wrote down, I had my annuity triangle, even though I know annuity, I know it from life, I know it from this, but just the confidence of knowing it's there, saying, okay, if I need to glance, just to be able to go accumulation, annuitization, just so you know. And I had the teeter-totter, which I did use on the test. They gave a question like, and they gave you all the information. The teeter-totter, they gave you the question of nominal yield is 4.5, current yield is 6 point something, yield to maturity is 8. how is it selling? And they said premium, car, that's impossible. You know, they gave you 4 answers, but just having that on there, I mean, it would help you 4, 5, 7. I don't even have to think about it. I mean, it's just going in that direction. So having that confidence with that, with what you choose to write down. And I wrote down silly stuff that you guys may go, I totally know that, but I didn't. I wrote down U.S. economy. If the U.S. economy is good, exporters are sad. Or no, if the U.S. economy is sad, exporters are sad. You know, so I did my own little hack and abbreviations for things. I wrote IR up, BP down, Y interest rates are down, then your bond prices are up, right? Because it's an inverse relationship, and that yield follows with your interest rate. So just little things that I needed to trigger in my brain. So as you get closer and ready to take the test, you can kind of work on what little triggers that will help you, abbreviations that will help you to trigger what's in your brain. Because you know it, it's all up there. You just sometimes need a little reminder, visual reminder. And it just kind of makes you feel good, like, I got it right there. I don't have to think about it. That's what I'm saying.
Computer, you actually have time to go through a series of showing you how the program works. Not this one to answer a question. It's a series of screens, 10 or 12 screens, that show you how to go through the text and how to get out of the text. Or something you're going to do later on that. But while you're doing that, you can write down all your cheat sheet notes. So it doesn't take any time away from your
It
test.
it doesn't count into your 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that's nice that you can sit there and take a breath and think, what do I need to write down? Like I said, I had 11 things, counted 11 things I wanted to write down. And then I got to 8 and I was like, the other one. So I took a breath and was like, hey, okay, my happy face, happy exporters, sad exporters, things like that. So kind of, you don't have to stress going, I'm putting it to my test time, because you do it all before you even click start exam. So it asks you questions before you start, you understand it. I mean, it walks you through. It's a nice big screen, computer screen, monitor screen, old, but big enough to where, you know, I had my glass on, I didn't feel like I had to move forward, give enough space. So you felt comfortable in it. And you can't, you know, which I asked. You just gotta let somebody know. That counts out of your
Pause it to go through
Unless you're feeling good. That's a man's answer. My answer is, if you know you have enough time, I had enough time. 2 hours and 15 minutes was enough time for me that if I felt I needed to get up out of my seat to stretch your legs, or you just need to take a break, you're allowed to. It does count into your time, but you'll know by then, because you'll take enough 100-question tests and gauge your time to say, okay, I can go and take the 5-minute smoke break without smoking. And just go stretch your legs, go to the back, and go, kind of stretch it all out, and know that you're okay. Some people need to have that time to go out and take care of that.
Did you notice the bell? Did you notice the easy, harder, and then back down to easy? Did you notice that?
It was similar to the Catholic stuff. Yeah, I noticed it a little bit. For my test, personally, there were a lot of questions that answered questions. So those, to me, are harder than all the other ones.
The ABC, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and then option A is 2 and 3, option those kind of questions. But I felt, and he had said it too on the drive home. Once he got to like question 45, he was like, oh, I can slow down, I have time. So the beginning, it kind of helps you build up your confidence. A lot of the definition questions and stuff that are at the beginning, you're like, I just know that, boom, I know what a transfer agent is, I know custodian. So you can just press those answers and go through, and it helps build up your confidence.
Is there a lot of ones you had to read which of these are not true or true?
Yeah, the ones that kind of trick you. This would be, all of these would be a violation of the code of conduct, except. So you stop, like, what are they really asking?
I started once, you know, I got through them, I had questions, and I said I had a lot of time left. I do something wrong. But you know, once I realized that I'm going to have to read that's why I started doing it. Once I realized that I had more time to this kind of class instead of then I would go back and read the question and make sure that he's answering the question. There was one or two times that I actually changed the answer.
Except,
Well, it was except, or that it just there's some kind of trigger word that would be looking for something different. But always except versus they're looking for taxes on this, not taxes on this. It does help us to go through. I highlighted questions instead of clicking for review. Just paranoid. Review everything and the test and I'm out of time. Then I'm not going to go back and answer those questions that I just couldn't do. So I would read the question, answer it to the best of my ability at the time, write the number down on the page, and then later down the test, if there's a question that clarifies that question for me, I can just go back and look at those questions and answer the ones later on. So that helped out too.
Did you change any of them?
I did change some.
I marked a good 15 for review. Had time at the end for breath. You have to go back. If it's marked for review and you have time, you can't press end exam. So you go back to the review, and honestly, I didn't change anything. I mean, and there's some where I went through and I was like, oh, let me go back and review just in case. But trust your gut. You know your stuff. At this point, you know your stuff. If you're taking your 100 question tests, you know your stuff. Trust yourself. What surprised you? What surprised you? Maybe.
The wording of the questions were different. It wasn't quite what I was used to. But the things that you're asking are still the same.
Same concept.
Same concept, same answers that they're looking for. I'm surprised that I got down to it. I had 30 questions answered. There's so much time left over, but I thought maybe I didn't start the clock or something. So I was surprised at how it was clicking. Just kind of went through and answered the questions. You couldn't very long necessarily think that you're clicking wrong.
We're going to get into they passed that level.
100% what they
100% of what they needed. I like that. 100% what they needed. And we'll get into some specific topics on Saturday at 8 a.m. So a couple things that I just want to remind folks because it's Wednesday and we're meeting again on Saturday, which means sometime between today and Saturday, I would think that some of you are going to be taking some tests, right? And so one of the things that we were reminded of about Dawn is that when you go into the test, see, they had the opportunity to be a little surprised by the way the questions were worded. You guys now get to not be surprised that it's worded differently. So there is an opportunity to not forget. And it was interesting because our son Ty is studying for math right now. He had this question. And he said, and the question was he needed to solve for X. So he's in 6th grade now. And he looked at it and he was like, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And so Brett wrote, can you do that? And he said, well, of course I can. I know exactly what to do. I'm just going to subtract, the same thing from each side, and I said, listen. I said, well, wait a minute. How's this different from that? Well, it's completely different. It looks completely different. And so what we said was, work from what you see to what you don't see. Right? Because we know from where we start, we go to where we can see. And so in the test, when you see a question that initially looks like you have no idea what it is, take a breath and say, okay, what do I know? Well, Ty looked at this and said, well, I know to isolate the variable. Well, how do you isolate a variable? You get rid of, right? You gotta make the 3 0, and you gotta do the same thing that you said in the equation. So he said, okay, I'm gonna subtract the 3 here, and I have to do the same side of each equation. Well, I know that I bring down my variable. Well, and up here, I brought down my equal sign, so I guess I bring this down. Okay, x plus 0 is x. So is that the answer, Papa? We stand. That's the answer. So what looked like he had no idea what to do, once he took a beat and said, okay, what can I see that I know? He was able to say step by step and actually come to the right answer. And since it's multiple choice, even if he wasn't 100% sure, he would have been in a place to eliminate at least half of them and probably find what he's looking for. And that's the opportunity that you guys have in the exam, because now we know it's going to happen. Right? This is not a possibility. We know for a fact that you're going to walk into the exam and the questions will be worded differently than you're used to. We also know for a fact that the concepts are exactly the same as the ones that you're studying. Does that make sense? And so for every question now, when you take a test, you say to yourself, okay, what land am I in? Am I in annuity land? Am I in mutual fund land? Am I in customer suitability land? And what do I know about this land that I'm in? And based on what I know about this land, I'm going to dissect the question. And I might not know how all the wording is, but I know the land I'm in, and I know how to dissect a question. And I know how to eliminate incorrect answers, right? I could look at all the answers and say, I have no idea, and I'm going to freak out, and I'm going to fail. Or I'm going to say, okay, let me look at A. Well, I'm in annuity land, and A is talking about a mutual. I don't know what it means, but I know it's not right. Okay, I got 3 more choices. Well, I'm going to look at B. Well, I know that I'm on this side of the triangle, and that's talking about accumulation units. So B can't be right. Well, now I've got C and D. I got a 50-50 chance. Even when I really had no idea what I was talking about. And so 50% or 60% of the test is about learning the concepts, right? You need to know your terms. You need to know your concepts. Because if you are in mutual fund land and you think you're in annuity land, we got problems. And once you know you're in mutual fund land and you're supposed to be there, the other part of the test is simply, how do you take a test? How do you stay calm? How do you dissect a question? How do you eliminate wrong answers? How do you work from what you know? How do you work from what you see to what you don't see? Because today, Ty took his math test and called and said, I got to a question and I had no idea what to do. And I remembered that I work from what I see to what I don't see. And so I just started and said, well, I know this isn't the way to do it. And I know this isn't the way to do it. And while I was thinking about that, I realized the way to do it. Because it opens your brain. It allows you to see the next step. When you get clear, right? When you reach that I see, we know you're in a position to get to the next I see. how your brain works. And that's how it'll work on each question on the test. So now that most of you, other than Alita, are really at the point of refining, it's about saying, okay, do I know the concepts? What terms do I need to memorize? What concepts do I need to clarify on Saturday and Sunday with Robin and non-Robin this week? And now, do I know how to take this test? Am I practicing the test-taking principles? Because when I get in the test, I know I'm going to see things that I'm not familiar with. But I'm going to know the concepts, and I'm going to know how to approach the test. And that's that. Cool? Questions? Okay, so between now and Saturday, I would like you to take a test. Even if it's just 20 questions. More the better, but even if it's just 20 questions, that's fine. And I'm going to email each of you a topic to look into. And you're going to teach that topic on Saturday. Not a big topic, a small topic. Because what we also know in here is what we can learn, we can master. What we master, we can teach. And so if you have mastered the concept, you can teach it, and that will reinforce the mastery of the concept. What everybody happy? And that's what Bella and Tony started, and that was working very well. So we're going to move into this next phase because we're going to get all of you through this in the next 4 to 6 weeks, tops. And we're going to do it by learning together, mastering together, teaching together. Okay? Very good. Thank you.
So it's funny because I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I'm like, I took this test, why am I paying? And it's funny because I learn everywhere I go. And part of what the transition of where we are is we look for two things. We look to increase our skills and we look for our abilities to influence other people. So I would like to explain what I heard, right? Bob and Don said. The first thing they did was they had to read the question and understand what was being asked. Was there a gotcha? What was going on? Then I heard Robin talk about the fact that once you understood the question, you had to figure out which land you were in, right? And then the conversation was you needed to figure out what did you know and build from what you can see on top of it. And then you needed to be able to breathe, look at your notes, pay attention, review, but follow your confidence because you did. That's kind of what if I were to break down what was said, that's what I heard. That you can't answer a question if you don't know what's asking. If you're in the wrong land, you're going to get the wrong answers, right? Once you know the land, you reference what you know and you build on strength. And then you apply it with the principles that you know of systematically attacking, going from where you are, using your notes, and going from one step to the next, and then only changing your answers if you bet your house on it. Is that about right? Okay. Now, how many of you, when you heard this helped you with a little bit of confidence or understanding about how you can attack your test? Okay. Well, see, I would call that getting why. And so my question to you, for those of you that aren't taking the test, is this where your head went? If you are taking the test, is this where your head went? Right? The ability to give language to what's going on is part of what it is that we're doing. Right? Why? You better write up the question. You don't know what's being asked, right? If you're not clear on what's being asked, you don't have your W down. If you can't identify and assess what land you're in, then you're not going to address the right answer, right? If we don't have the ability to develop a plan, I know this, I know it's this, I don't know it's this, what about this? That's developing a plan. And then running the principles that you know with the accountability and time frame, it's nothing new. It's everything that we do. And so part of what this is this isn't a new concept. We've got the platform, the understanding, the opportunity to sit there and go, okay, wait a second. Everything we're hearing is in alignment. And so when you're in there taking your test, one of the things you have the ability to do is if you're like, well, how do I remember? Is just get why. And ask yourself, what question is being asked? Ask yourself, identify and assess. What land are we in? That's an assessment skill. Right? Develop a plan. What do I know? What do I not know? Where's the step? Where's the progress? Because the better and the stronger you get at this tool in all facets of your life, one, the cleaner you're going to be. But this is about growth. This is about learning how to be an entrepreneur. This is about being able to communicate that strength. And so as you got this, you've got the ability to know how clear am I. So as I did this, if you were like, oh my God, I totally didn't even see that, that's not failure, that's an identifier. That's the opportunity to go, wait, I know this, but am I applying this? Right? Is this something that's held out there, or is this something that I think in, that I communicate in, that I reference back, because I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. Right? If Dawn wrote down on her cheat sheet an answer, and then the question comes up, I don't care if it's the hardest question ever. If she happened to write the cheat sheet down, she's like, totally nailed that one, because it's right there. Right? Those are we've been in class, right? You got your AP tests coming in, right? You go in, you got your piece of paper, you can download as much as you can. As soon as you get into those things, you can download everything. Right? And so it's not about, right? I used to practice writing my crib sheet. Right? I'd write my cheat sheet 50 times so that I got in. I knew exactly what I was going to write. That's part of where my studying would go. Why? Because it's utilizing my tools. Does it make sense? And so I'm really excited because you guys nailed it. Now, I don't know if you nailed it on purpose, but you nailed it. And so that's a huge component. Why? Because now, what Bob and Don and everybody in the room gets to do, when Tate's getting ready to write their Tate's study for his test, you know what they get to do? Look, let's get right on every test, on every question. Right? You got to identify and assess what's going on, right? You got to write down the question. What are they actually asking? Identify, assess. What land are you in? Develop the game plan. What do you know about? So what are the three things you know about annuity? There's an in phase, there's new phase, and there's an out phase. Okay, what are the three things about each of those? Okay, you got that. So now in that annuity land, you got a wire. Now, are you gonna change your questions? Are you gonna do this? What are the things that you do to make yourself feel better? How do you go through it? And now we just execute the plan of what we know and the land we know to answer the question they're asking. That makes sense? Because guys, this is what we're teaching. This is what we do. Now, I also did that because some of us are like, oh, I totally got this wide thing down. And I love the confidence. But I want you to challenge yourself on the depth of skill, on where you're going. What does mastery mean? What does ability to teach it mean? There are people that know it but can't articulate it. There's nothing wrong with that. Those are all points of skill. Right? The enemy of great is good. And so part of what we're doing is we're taking this thing to the next step. So I wanted my friend Mr. David to come up because he and I had some fun over the last couple of days. David doesn't know this. Mr. David, could you come up? And what I'd love for you to do is I'd love for you to share a couple ideas, kind of what we talked a little bit about Monday and then about last night, about today, kind of where you're feeling and what's going on, because you've had some growth in the last little bit, right?
Yes. But we're baseline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And
It's fine.
no.
All right. So, I'll go on. So, past week's been actually pretty good in my growth as understanding, scouting for and actually being activity.
was having this conversation prior, and I wasn't really like doing it. I wasn't really like, didn't know exactly what to say at a certain time, so I would just talk too much and say too much. I just felt like why not just a skill that would help everything. That's what it was. And right now, I see growth of waiting, being patient, and just applying a certain, knowing what the conversation is with the people that I'm having a conversation with. And then seeing where I can be, right? Where I can see, and just share other conversations. I have a friend who takes the metro to work, to perform, to company every day for 4 hours, right? And so it's like he's doing 12 hours there, 12 hours. The conversation started with, so many people from work. He's like, honestly, just think about it. And it was just like that conversation. So, and I let him just tell me everything, you know, like, I mean, I was listening and certain things and all that stuff, but I was able to use his life experience and really apply what I've learned and just have that right conversation with him to develop him, just giving him inspiration of that, hey, there's something better out there, not even talking to him about business stuff. It's just something better and helping him as a friend. It's good. It feels good to know that I can do that and know that I can have these type of conversations with people. Not only that I help them, but and then I shared multiple conversations with Fred and I could brief them with them. I was able to see a different. Oh, I didn't understand. You always tell me, I feel like I knocked them out of the park every time, and I come to the I can never, you know, I can always grow, right? I don't know if you guys, just to like, practice on my speech. So I was in this morning, I grabbed all the success CDs. So all that are missing are magazine CDs. They have success CDs there, and it's about people that share how they became CEO, how they did it, and all that stuff. Right? So when they interviewed this coach, I guess he's like a college coach, he's the market madness stuff that's going on. And he tells him, like, he's like, I'm a coach, I'm grading all this, and how did you do it, and all this stuff. And he's like, well, I still have the coach that taught me everything is still teaching me today. So everything that you see is because I still get a phone call, or I call my coach in the background, and then he's like, yeah, so you suck here, you grow here, and then it kind of went with what's happening in the school, right? When stuff just aligns, like it aligns. And then obviously seeing them like Monday morning, like I mean, when I saw the text, and I was here with Robin, right? And I was like, yeah, it's in the text. She passed. It's real. You know what I mean? Like it's real. So who's next, right? And that's what I told myself. Right? So I need to be professional because I want to be professional. I can't just be that. I know you understand. Yes. I mean, if that's some of it, I mean,
Yeah,
sure.
no.
I got a lot.
So
I just need to put it in place.
So the interesting thing, is good job, is part of this. Like one of the skills is y'all need to talk to yourself. Like y'all need to talk to yourself, right? In the car, you need to talk to yourself. When you're on your way home tonight, you need to debrief this meeting with yourself. If you're driving with someone else, you can debrief with them, right? But it's a skill to be able, who's your audience, right? A, right? Who's your audience? What's the intent? What's the message? What was the goal? Where are those pieces you build? Why? Because part of what this is to realize, okay, what are, right? Just, what does Sears want? Right? What did I want David to do? Because that question is going to influence, right? Identify and set. Like if you're going to do that, where's the purpose, right? What's the plan? All of that stuff, what kind of an impact? What are we trying to get accomplished? And these are the skills we're going to continue to drive home. Now, at some point, I would like it to not be, oh my God, I totally screwed up. Here I go again, man. Every time I call Sears, I'm effing up. It doesn't sound very neutral, right? And the reality is that if like, and we joke about this and we don't, because I know David's not the only person in the room that has had that sense and feeling. Let's talk about that for a few minutes. I have a question. Let's just say that David feels that way realistically. How inspired is David to call me when he did something he feels really good about it, and in his mind he believes I'm going to tell him all the things he screwed up on? How inspired is he to call me? So when he's excited and powerful, and he's like, screw it, I don't care what Sears is going to say because I'm just excited, he's going to talk to me about it. But let's say he walks out and he's not overly confident. Maybe it didn't go exactly the way he wanted to. If he thinks that I'm going to tell him all the things he did wrong, what's the likelihood of him calling me in that moment? So now what's the compound effect of not making that phone call, of not having that conversation? Continues to do the stuff so, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's my question. What is our job? What are we doing? Hopefully, right, our job is to teach folks how to become successful entrepreneurs.
Then one of our jobs is to be coachable.
If we're in alignment. Now, does anyone in this room think I get any pleasure telling David the things that he needs to work on? I said me, not Bob, right? No, but do you think it's a pleasurable experience for me to point out the things that David isn't doing correct? I enjoy it thoroughly. Question. It makes me feel so. The answer is no. The answer to that was, of course not. Of course you don't feel good telling somebody what they didn't do right. I never tell somebody what they didn't do right because I don't get caught up in it. Did I have a conversation, you did this wrong? Have you ever heard me say, you did this wrong? Ever? You've known me 7 years. Have you ever heard me say, you've done this wrong? Ever. You will hopefully never. There might be some person doing that one time, and that's all you'll hear for the rest of the hour, right? Bob's like, that one time, but I don't know of any coaching time where I said, you did that wrong. Now, could there be a chance that you heard me say I did it wrong, even though I didn't say you did it wrong? And so now you're like, no, you told me I did it wrong. And I'm like, well, let's talk about what was actually said versus what was heard. Now, I will own my responsibility in communication in the fact that if you heard me say I did it wrong, then I will do everything I can to get better, to get you to hear that. But I want you to understand something as a philosophy over here. I do not believe in good and bad. Genuinely, as a human being in my philosophy, in our philosophy, good and bad does not exist. How can you say that? That person just got in an accident. How terrible. How do you know? What if 3 weeks down, three steps down, they were going to die? We have no idea. What if they met someone who was going to? No idea. I got divorced. That's terrible. I met my wife. That's fantastic. I had twins. That's fantastic. They drive me crazy. That's terrible. Who knows? So I have a question. If our philosophy is there's no such thing as good and bad, there's no such thing as right or wrong, there simply is an event and an opportunity for a consequence, what's the likelihood of me ever telling you you did something wrong? Now, you might not like the consequence of the choice and behavior you made. Can we all agree that that's very different than you did it wrong? Why am I having this conversation? Because 2 parts we want to go through is, 1, my job isn't to just teach you. My job is to teach you to teach. So I have a question. If you're going to be an effective coach and you operate from good and bad or right or wrong, do you think at some point you might have some conflict? Best you identify that early, because otherwise it'll come out. You know how I know that? People who I don't use good and bad or right or wrong, and people still hear that. What happened if I did? What if I operated from right and wrong? What's the likelihood of people hearing a bunch of wrong? Does this make sense? This is a fundamental understanding. The reason we lock in advances, it's an opportunity to grow. Look, Bob and Don took their securities exams 100 years ago, passed them, had their securities licenses. We were running a sandlot. They left the business, let their securities license lapse. God, I got to do it again. Thank God they had to do it again. How grateful was everyone in this room that they had to do it again? They might not be grateful, but they are, because now all of a sudden they've just created a vision for Take to go, oh, I can totally do that too. Because we're creating from. It's about the perspective of what's being occurred, of what's occurred. Is this making any sense? So the flip side of this is, right? Here's the second part. And this is just the personality flaw in mine. I'm in a hurry. I've been here 20 years. I'm in a hurry. Aren't you? Don't you want to put the economic bullshit to bed? Don't you want to put the 12 of us in a room to bed? Don't you want to put the I don't have this done yet to bed? I'm in a hurry. See, the reality is, the longer it takes our entrepreneur training camp to get their securities licenses, the longer it takes for us to introduce the starter squad stories that we're putting together, which is going to be the next phase to really pivot this thing down. The longer it's going to take for us to have a new crew of folks, because as long as studying is our priority, our AAA'z Night attendance isn't that good. Make sense? And so if we say, I'll take my time, I'm cool with that. But that just means we are delaying the growth that we all say we want. That's bad. No, it's not. It just is. But it doesn't mean that's what I have to want. So because I'm in a hurry, if I'm having a conversation with my friend David and I recognize an opportunity for him to grow, now my job is to be what? And I want to make sure this is right. 1 degree more intense. Let me make sure this is perfectly perfect. Most of you have raised children and have done children. Most of you have friends that are not as far down whatever road you're on. There. Yep. There's 80 things I can tell you, and I'll tell you 1 or 2. I don't tell you the 80. Tony, if you don't think I could make a list of the 87 things that you need to work on right now and put them up here, you're insane. If you get frustrated, if you want to know why I'm ready for 1 and 2, because it's like a Pez dispenser. You're like, oh, got that one done? Boom, time for the next one. Because you want to make $500,000 in the next 5 years. How long do we want to wait before we tackle the next Pez? Some of us are like, well, I don't want to tackle the next one, so I'm going to suck on this one. I mean, there's a little sliver there. What are we costing? So one of the things that you and I get to figure out is who's in charge of how you feel. Who's in charge of you? You. Until next week. But even at the end of the day, right? If you look at some of your grades, who's in charge of you? Yeah, huh? Because you're way smarter than some of the grades you got, right? And they've created the support. They've done everything they possibly can. Does it really matter what they do? You're in charge of you, huh? If you can't get you to study, or do the homework because you're like, I can nail the test because you're your father's son. That's going to have influence, and no matter what they do, it doesn't really matter. You're in charge of you. We're all in charge of us. We're in charge of how we respond, how we feel, how we react. And so, if we're uncomfortable with our growth because we're trying to feel good about the progress, there's a couple of tricks that you can do. Now, I'm not saying all of this is easy. I've had hard coaches my entire life. And so I had to learn some important tricks. And here's some things I learned about coaches. They coach the ones that are playing. And what I learned in that moment, David, when you're like, shit, there goes Sears again, somewhere in the back or front of my brain, that when I just moved to the next level. Whenever it's, man, that's fantastic. Hey, by the way, did you pay attention to? You understand that we only have that conversation because you just cleared the one before? Did you realize that? So if you just, if we go back to our story here, if you clear this, and we're now here, right? You have your new I am, and you dial this one in. Do we spend a lot of time back here? Doesn't that mean we actually have a whole new platform? Isn't that a positive thing? But let's say instead of you being excited, David's not this way, but you're a complete jerk. You get frustrated, pissed, you fight, you make me feel bad, you make you feel bad, you crap. Like it's an uncomfortable scenario. At some point, doesn't it become too costly for me to do that? Because if it's not going to be received, why do it? See, part of being coachable is creating a space. Now, I get better, you get better. You're all going to learn how to coach me. You're going to learn how to teach me. Guess what? You're probably going to suck at it. Does that surprise anyone? How long do you want to suck? Isn't a shorter possible time like a good answer? Well, how are you going to get back to it? Figure it out on your own? No, because you did the best you could in the moment you did. And yet you suck. And so the likelihood of you correcting it in that moment is slim and or none because you made the best decision you could in that moment. Right or wrong? And so the opportunity to have a different perspective allows us to shift. Well, why are we having this conversation? This conversation, let me make sure this is perfectly clear, has very little to do with you guys. Almost nothing. And yet I'm watching most of your faces, and you still think I'm talking to you about you. You guys are almost out of training camp, huh? You got baseline 30 of 38 people that you're working with, right? You've introduced the skills of what you're doing. You're going to go to phase 2. You're going to. What's going to be happening in Bob and Don's business in the next 100 days? What are Bob and Don going to be learning how to do? Donnie, what are they going to be learning how to do? We're getting a starter. So what's a starter? And what's an important? What are the components? What makes somebody a starter? What are they technically? They're a player with players. So starter is players with players, right? And so all of a sudden, Bob and Don, in the next, 2 weeks? 2 to 3 weeks, taking their 63, 2 to 3 weeks later, taking their 65, 2 to 3 weeks later, possibly taking their 26, right? So in 6 to 8 weeks, they're fully licensed. They'll have their 35 baselines conversation phase 2 done, all their licenses in phase 2, which means now the next phase is developing an opportunity for them to learn how to teach and go be able to go back. So we're going to find 2 or 3 people, one of them their son, they're going to learn how to be able to teach this information. They're going to develop that next skill. Well, I read the Slack that said Camacho's going to be next. Right? I'm not saying no one else is, but that was the Slack response I read was David Camacho saying, I'm next. Well, if Camacho's next and Bob and Don pivot to starters, then David's next. What's that mean David's going to be learning how to do in the next 100 days? Not 100 years, the next 100 days. What's he going to become? The starter. So what is he going to be practicing and learning as a starter? What skills are they going to be spending most of their time on? Learning why? Learning the scouting report? Learning? Is that what they're going to spend the most of their time on? No, that's what training camp's about. What are they going to be spending the most of their time on when they pivot to starter? Teaching. Learning how to teach. It's funny because this conversation is about making this shift because all we're talking about is transitioning with this group to the next. And yet a lot of us, it appeared based on the reception that you were living back in our MVP group. You were back in the introduction. You were back into the, I got to learn these skills. I got to know what these are. You were living back there. Emotionally. Isn't that fascinating? Cindy, you're not back there, are you? No, you're halfway done with securities. You're taking your securities in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We're getting this thing dialed in because we're in a hurry, right? And you realize that if we do this thing together, we lock arms, we take some urgency, and we create this thing, we get through this thing fast. And now imagine if there's 5 or 6 or 8 couples learning how to be players with players. And they're practicing the teaching and the learning and the understanding. And now all of a sudden figuring out why it isn't what the priority is, but figuring out how to explain it to somebody else is their priority and their skill. And we spent a handful of time learning how to teach and instill this stuff to other folks. Now we've got a group of people. Now what do we need? If we get to a place, is this making any sense? If we get to a place where we've got a bunch of people that are through their licensing and have mastered a lot of their skills, and now they're pivoting to starter so that they can teach it, what do we need? We need students. Which means we get to a place where we actually attract and want to attract folks that we can start to teach. But if we don't get excited about wanting to teach and having the skills to teach, what's the likelihood of us attracting the people to teach if we're not excited about the opportunity and possibility of actually teaching? It doesn't happen.
But I think one of the interesting things is, this has everybody, when you actually make this mental shift, the next time that you go into a conversation with Brett makes a suggestion, you have an opportunity to approach the suggestion the way that you have previously. So Brett's giving me a suggestion again. Or you have an opportunity to say, wasn't it interesting that Brett gave me that suggestion at that moment so I can start to learn when I might provide the same suggestion to someone else. And now the energy that you listen to Brett from becomes a very different space.
Yeah.
Because you're paying attention to both what Brett is saying for you in your conversations that you're doing and modeling, and you're really paying attention to what is Brett saying, how is he saying it, why is he saying it at that moment to that particular comment.
This is players.
Challenges. Perfection is needed. There guess what? We don't have this. This afternoon, I walked into my wife. I walked in the office of my wife. I'm like, oh my God, I totally figured the next 2 phases down. We are good to go. Let's go. Look like a 40-minute shower. I might have caused the next round. But like, let's go. Guys, this isn't about perfection. It's never about perfection. It's about being able to understand where we are, where do we want to pivot to the next, and how do we gather up, and how do we get there faster, and how do we leverage the experts that we've got. And if you need me, look, 3 times in my business, 3. In the first 12 years of my business, 3 distinct times, I remember calling Lizette Rolls, saying, Lizette, lie to me and tell me it's just going to work. True story. Hey, Lizette, how are things? Hey, Brad, what's going on? Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you lie to me for the next couple of minutes and just tell me this is going to work? 3 times. I didn't need what's next. 3 times I needed just tell me all the things that's working. Who was in charge of me in that moment? Me. I'm like, this is what I need. Give it to me.
If you need a high five, walk in the office and put your hand up. I've never seen that. A high five. And then you'll tell you.
Guys,
That's you.
you get to be in charge of you. Now, if you don't want us to put you on the, we want to get this done fast, whatever, do it. Right? Bob and Don's do is different than Tony's do. And so their path and speed is going to be different. Their conversations are going to be different. But I know Tony's do and I know Bob and Don's do. And our job is to help create both of those do's within the time frames that those do's are wanting to be done. Just like that's going to be yours. And guess what a captain is? A captain is a starter with starters. So guess what? You're going to learn how to do this for your people. And then you're going to learn how to do this for your starters. This is how this works. Shit, Brent, that means you're going to tell me all the things that I've been doing that I got to change for the next. Yes. You know why? Because you don't know how to make 400 grand a year. You don't know how to have 200 people come to a meeting. You don't know, I'm going to say something really bad, but good. You don't know how to keep amazing people here that haven't made any money for years. That's a skill, guys. Because you see where we're going and you understand what's occurring. And I've always been able to. Now we get to do it with value. Those are skills. It's not magic. You can learn them all. Because we built the language. David and I, the conversation that he and I had yesterday was one of the most fun conversations that I've had in years. And the reason was we were able to, in about 12 minutes, address a really important coaching struggle with zero conflict, zero to limited depression on my end. It sounds like major depression on his, and yet he still applied it, right, all the way through. He didn't seem depressed when he explained it to Robin.
My articulation of what I wanted to express today was not where my mind was. Because I receive information pretty well.
We're totally
Right.
messing. Totally messing.
No, because I don't want you guys to get the idea that that's like that.
There's a book called The Winner Within. If you ever want to know where a lot of these principles come from, and this is a hardcore thing because I'm a Celtic fan, and this was written by Pat Wright. But The Winner Within is one of the single best team building books I've ever read. And one of the things is you coach your captains. Because when your captains know how to respond, man, you got a powerful team. The problem is captains don't know how to respond, you are structured. And so we teach our captains how to respond. I coach my captains. I coach the ones that are further down the road and that are changing and growing. Because if they respond, everyone else goes, that's how I'm supposed to respond. Now the challenge is when I coach, right? And so, but the conversation that David and I had, and then we'll finish with this, but I think it's okay if I have this conversation, right? And David was doing it's phenomenal, right? It's gone through, but we realize, right? We've seen this, right? We know we've got our I am and our I see and our I want, right? We've got our I was and, right? All this stuff. What David and I discovered is that David's gotten really pretty good at developing his I am as a neutral assessment. And he's gotten really good at his I was and the steps that he's taking. Phenomenal, in fact, of being able to explain to somebody where he was, the steps that he took to get him from where he was to where he is. Really, really good. And so that's what he's telling me about. He was all fired up and excited, and it was fantastic. I'm like, David, that's fantastic. Can I point something out to you? He goes, what's that? I go, you stop your story. And the power of the scouting report isn't about, to be honest with you, the power of the scouting report isn't this. The power of the scouting report is this is the strength to communicate back. See, if you tell someone where you're going to go, but they have a mental picture of where you were, they don't believe you. If you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be full-time, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And they're like, yeah, but you work at, you do what? How are you going to do that? There's zero belief. But the scouting report allows you to talk about where you are, why you're excited, where you were, the steps you took to get from where you are to where you want to be, or where you were to where you are. But the reason you actually have that conversation is because then you have the ability to say, and the reason I'm so excited is that I know that if I bam, bam, I will, and it allows you to paint a vision of where you're going. Does that make sense? My friend David was enjoying this and not leveraging it as a tool here. The challenge is that means it looks like this. It's normal. It's not a good thing. It just, but the conversation is, did you know that this is what's going on? Because this has occurred over the last little bit. We've lived in this. And we worked really hard to be able to put this language together, but it's not. And when I did the you could go here, there was a little bit of resistance on this. What this scouting report gave us the ability to do was to flush out the resistance and to paint a picture as to why we do that. And as soon as that happened, like everything went click, 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 click. And he's like, oh my God, I totally understand the power of scouting report, but now I can start thinking about where I'm going. And it's not scary and it's not dangerous because David Camacho figured out that he could get strength, not just communicate strength to somebody else, but he could actually get strength for himself in what he's about to go do because of what he was able to do. In 12 minutes, we were able to coach a technique that's really, really important as a skill and give David the clarity of, oh my God, I'm going to nail this thing because I can totally live here once I know these steps. Well, guess what? How many of you think there's David Camacho is going to have people in his business that do that same thing? Now David Camacho gets to be like, oh my gosh, I totally remember. And when David has the I totally remember when, all three of these people get to have the same experience. And so then when they pivot to being a starter, and David Camacho has the, hey, remember when I had the I totally remember when? You might want to have the totally remember when conversation. And now David's going to be able to teach his starters when to have the I totally remember when conversation with players. And so he's going to teach his starters how to do it. So he's going to have a business that he teaches.
And David gets to do it from a place of strength and vulnerability that actually has stronger impact. Because David isn't just going to tell it the way that Brett told David. David's going to David's player the strength and the space for it to be okay that he didn't know it, and the strength to know that he can get to where David's going because David was where that player was. See, for us to get frustrated, disappointed, that we're hearing another thing to learn can be a missed opportunity. Because my most impactful conversations with this group has been when I have admitted my learnings. The best talks I've had, the most instant messages after a talk has been when I've shared my vulnerability with you guys. So every growth opportunity that you get is an opportunity that you get to share down the line with someone else that will have that higher level of impact, because you're going to share it from a place of I was there, from a place of vulnerability. The greatest leaders on the planet are the ones who share the most mistakes they've made. Fact. Stanford study. Business radio, we talked about it last week. Greatest leaders, the ones who share the most mistakes they made. And they're the most inspirational, because it means that person sitting in that chair can say, oh, I made that mistake too. And it's okay because I can get to where that person is. So it's actually an opportunity.
In the last 5 years of this conversation, you said you closed the door. From moving on, moving on. This isn't laziness. This is growth.
And we're able to have these conversations because David left Brett's office, and after, we'll call it a 12-minute conversation, 3-minute conversation, and went down, started me in the conference room. And I said, what did you talk about? And he said, I'm supposed to share with you that I started about it. And I said, okay, what did you talk about? And he goes, well, so, you know, we've been going on these basic conversations. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I got really good at sharing my I am and my I was. Now I need to get good at sharing my I see and I will. And I was like, okay, cool. Done.
30 seconds.
And you go, we moved on to security. 6 months ago, that would have been a 30-minute conversation. Well, so I was talking to this guy, and here's what I told him. And I'm like, oh, so you shared your I was, David? Yeah. So I shared my I was, and then I told him that, and you know, we really didn't get to. So you didn't get to your right. So now we're writing forward. We're getting clear on what's the I see it. None of it. Walked in, sat down. Yeah. So I got down my I was, my I am. I need to work on sharing my I see my will. Okay. True.
Yeah.
Huge. Allows for the space for this conversation. Locking in advances. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's cool. I know. I mean, it's, when you just write and draw the lines, everybody knows what you're doing. That to me, that's awesome. Anyways, 2 lines, 1 lines, everybody knows.
That's how we get to collapse the pipelines. What we want, you're going. You're going to create an environment where attracting people is inevitable. Because as soon as you're ready to teach them, they're going to show up.
And be the player you want to attract. Okay.
You went too far, girl.
Want to be more intense, right?
I'm
So
just saying, how do you want your player?
they're starting where they are.
There's a space for everyone.
Right?
Alex,
Just the goal is for you today to assess where you are and just point in the direction aim. If you didn't see wide and now you do, you'd be like, oh my God, that totally makes sense. That's huge. Your ability to draw that parallel is huge. If you're like, totally got that, move to the next, but again, this is about you understanding. And then if we're locking in advances, there is no right. There is no right. Well, we should be. It doesn't matter. It genuinely doesn't matter. And so any energy that we put on what we think it should be is a colossal waste of energy. And that means that that energy cannot be focused on something else. Because we're spending more here.
The secret number, it doesn't sound like a secret thing now that I say that, but don't shit on yourself.
It's just like,
Don't shit on yourself.
don't shit all over yourself.
So it's you.
Right? Yes. So, guys, we're there. And so for those of you engaged in your securities, I'm going to ask, we're going to ask, we're in a hurry. Patiently intense. Attack what's next. It doesn't take a lifetime. Attack what's next. Work, grow, week to week. Let's put this to bed. Because the way Bob and Don study is how they're going to study for the 63. The way they study for the 63 and take the 63 is how they're going to study for the 65. The way they take the 65 is how they're going to study for the 26. And when they're done with the 26, guess what? That's how they're going to attack wide, and that's how they're going to attack the scouting report, and that's how they're going to attack, and that's how they're going to be able to teach, and all of it's in place. And just know it's worth it. This company is getting stronger. This company is getting better. This company is getting further down the road. We are attracting the right people in our lives. We are attracting the right allies in our corner, right? There will come a period of time where very, very good things will be in alignment. We want to be game day ready when it's time. That's our entire motivation, is to help you get to where you say you want to go at the speed you told us you want to get there. If you want to change that, help us. Love you guys. We'll see you Saturday.
It is. 8 a.m. 8 a.m. 8 a.m.